Hello and welcome back to our roster and schedule reveals for our FCS Dynasty. Today we're looking at the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, ranked 18th in the nation in the preseason polls, and taking a look at their offense. They are just stacked with subscriber players. Let's get right into it with sophomore quarterback Lamar Jackson, 82 overall. He's 6'3", 221 pounds. Last season he threw for 3,470 yards. 34 touchdowns, 16 picks, and 53 completion percentage, along with 96, sacked 22 times. But he was an absolute stud running the football as well. He had 1,023 yards on the ground, 12 touchdowns. He fumbled the football 7 times, though. Definitely an area that he needs to improve on for year number 2. And staying with the quarterback position, there are 2 4-star recruits coming out of high school. Tremaine Watson, number 10, he's got a 78 overall. And another 4-star, Tate Redding, brother of the sophomore halfback Daley Redding. He has a 72 overall, and he's 6'1", 210 pounds. And their 4th quarterback on the depth chart, Jalen Evans, 70 overall. So they have really good talent at the quarterback position. It's going to be a 3-way battle for the starting position once Lamar Jackson ends up going on to the Elite Football League. So that's going to be a fierce battle. And Jalen Evans is a 3-star recruit. So not much of a big difference between Tate Redding and Jalen Evans when it comes to overall, just that star rating. Now onto the halfback position, Daley Redding, sophomore, 85 overall. He had a fantastic year last season. 1,858 yards, 23 touchdowns, along with 93, 625 yards after contact, 27 20-plus yard runs, 54 broken tackles. He was just doing it all for this team. He also had 12 catches, 240 yards, and 4 touchdowns, but he did have 4 drops. And he was not on special teams. He's not about that life. Mason Smith, the number 2 halfback, he also plays outside linebacker. He has this 84 overall. He is the closer, and he ran for over 500 yards and 8 touchdowns in year number 1, along with 64 and 4 20-plus yard runs, 19 broken tackles, 0 fumbles for Mason Smith. Now, there are a couple more players here on offense, as you can see. One more halfback, freshman Chad Collins, 78 overall. He's a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. So definitely expect to see him on the field here and there, getting some touches. You cannot have talent like that on the bench. At receiver, Reinhard Irwindowski, 6'1", 187 pounds, 78 overall. He was a monster last year, 45 catches, 1,227 yards, 16 touchdowns. He had that 96-yard reception from Lamar Jackson, but he did have 9 drops. So a little bit of room for improvement right there. And there is another receiver, Jack Marks from last season, sophomore. He has a 78 overall as well. He didn't have quite as good numbers as Irwindowski, just 25 catches, 588 yards, and 6 scores. And he had 8 drops. So Jack Marks, he needs to improve quite a bit. But there's just so many weapons on this offense for Lamar Jackson. It doesn't really matter if there's, multiple 1,000-yard receivers. It's just not an area of concern for the Jackrabbits offense. And there is another receiver here, 4-star recruit Jacob Coleman, coming out of high school, 74 overall, 6 foot, 190 pounds. So he'll be in the slot for the Jackrabbits. And there's just so many weapons here, guys. They got TJ Maxey at tight end, who's a non-subscriber player. And now they have 2 subscriber tight ends as well. Brahms North and Dayton Down. North coming in with a 91 overall. He was a monster last year. 41 catches, 896 yards, just 4 touchdowns though, along with 61 and 4 drops. But Brahms North also did really good in run blocking, 15 pancakes. Very versatile athlete. Dayton Down, 4-star tight end, 80 overall. He's going to be a beast. He's going to be the number 3 tight end, but we will see him out there on some offensive plays. He'll also be on special teams covering kicks, punts, blocking on returns. He's going to be everywhere. Onto the offensive line, Chad Filler, sophomore tackle, 82 overall, coming into his sophomore season. He had 88 pancakes, 2 sacks allowed last year. He was really good for them. He got freshman All-American, first team All-Big 12, and second team All-American. So definitely some great accolades for him. And now there's another freshman here, 4-star tackle, Jake Seahorn, 78 overall. He is 6'7", 296 pounds. So he's got a little bit of room to fill out some, but I think he's going to do fantastic, and he's going to be the right tackle on the opposite side of Chad Filler. Onto the guard position, Dan DeBeers, sophomore. He's 6'9", 348 pounds, 80 overall. He had a great year as well last season, 83 pancakes, just 1 sack allowed. He was also freshman All-American, first team All-American, and first team All-Big 12. So some more great accolades for this South Dakota State offensive line. And to round out the offense, finally, is Gray North, 84 overall center. He did not allow a sack the entire season last year. 41 pancakes, 0 sacks allowed. And he was also freshman All-American and first team All-Big 12. Kind of a snub for, he didn't even get second team All-American with not allowing a single sack. So that's a little bit of a snub. But let's move on to defense. Defensive tackle, Frank Theory, 6'8", 348 pounds. He's coming in with an 82 overall. Now, he made a really good impact in the interior of that defensive line. 37 tackles, 20 for a loss, 7 sacks. He had a pass deflection, 2 forced fumbles. He's just a monster. He is a mountain of a man, and I don't know how any offensive lineman is going to block him. And moving on, Jamar Hicks. He is not a subscriber player, but he's going to be from now on just because he made such an impact on the South Dakota State team. So I am going to include him from here on out. 86 overall cornerback, and I mean, what can I really say about him? Jamar Hicks was an absolute monster. He had 58 tackles, 3 for a loss, 4 picks, returned for 116 yards, a long of 88, 18 pass deflections, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery for 67 yards, 2 defensive touchdowns. He had 4 kick returns for touchdowns, along with 1,318 yards on returns, and he also had 3 punt returns for touchdowns. Definitely making an impact here for the Jackrabbits. And staying at cornerback, another freshman coming in is 3-star corner Goku Lee with just a 62 overall. Now, on Northern Colorado, we saw 2-star halfback Jada Streets, and he had a 70 overall. So the star ratings, I don't really put too much stock into those, but Goku Lee with a 62 overall, and he will actually be the number 2 cornerback on this roster, I believe, if not the nickel corner. So we will see him playing a little bit this season. And to round out the defense is Chris Major, strong safety, 78 overall. Not a high overall, but he had 104 tackles last season, 10 for a loss, 1 sack, 6 picks, 17 pass deflections, 7 forced fumbles, 1 recovered. No defensive touchdowns, though. But Chris Major, just a great athlete at safety. Let's see what these guys are going to do here for year 2 in their schedule. Jim Langer, of course, the head coach. They won the Cotton Bowl last season against Grambling State, and I'm expecting similar success this season. They start off against Army week 1. Week 2, they'll be traveling to take on Navy, and then week 3, they will host Buffalo, and week 4 is a subscriber versus subscriber matchup against the San Diego Toreros. So the first 4 games of the year, it's a pretty tough stretch for them, but then they get into Big 12 play against Nicholls State, McNeese State, and then another subscriber versus subscriber matchup as they travel to the Fargo Dome to take on the 24th ranked North Dakota State Bison. After that, Tennessee Tech, Southeast Missouri State, Sam Houston State, which that team was really good last season, and week 12 they'll be traveling to take on the 16th ranked VMI Cadets, who are just absolutely loaded on the defensive side of the football this season with a lot of great recruits coming in. And the final game of the season, the final Big 12 matchup, Furman Paladins, they host them. Furman was pretty good last year as well. But the beginning stretch of the season here for South Dakota State looks really rough against Army, Navy, Buffalo, and then a subscriber showdown in week 4. So if they can win 2 of those games, they're looking pretty solid for the rest of the season, I think. They already beat North Dakota State last year. I think they're going to have a little bit easier of a time this season. North Dakota State didn't do a whole lot on defense in recruiting. And neither did South Dakota State, but they have so much firepower on offense. It's hard to contain them. And VMI, that could be either or. I mean, VMI is really good. South Dakota State's really good. And the Cadets actually beat South Dakota State in the Big 12 title game last season. So I'm not going to give that a win here for South Dakota State. But I think they'll win at least 8 games here in year 2 in the regular season before they head out to a bowl game or possibly a Big 12 championship game. I just think they're going to have a rough time in the first 4 weeks. But let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. How many wins do you think the Jackrabbits will have? And what games do you have circled on their list here? And who do you think is going to beat them? Well, that's it for this video, guys. I will see you guys tomorrow with the Southern Utah Thunderbirds and head coach Noah Regier, his first season. It's going to be a fun one for them. Hopefully a lot of improvements have happened for the Thunderbirds. I'll see you guys for that one tomorrow. Take it easy.